This is the tier list video for the best brawlers in Big Hunt, whether you're playing the boss or you're the other guys. We'll go with anti-boss. Whether you're the boss or the anti-boss. Okay guys, we're gonna go and jump in here with the best bosses for Big Hunt. And we're gonna start off with the B tier brawlers, and that is going to be starting off with, first of all, a lot of brawlers like Colt, Rico, Pam, Crow, and Leon can be played decently as the boss, and I considered putting them in the B tier. But honestly, the biggest issue is that they don't actually have the ability to finish off many players when they're being swarmed, because their attacks don't pierce. They have to focus on one person at a time, and typically that's not the best. So unfortunately, they are not in the competitive B tier. Now, the exception to this is actually Spike. Spike is in the B tier. He is very strong, but he does suffer from, once again, getting surrounded by a bunch of brawlers all at once without him actually having the splash damage, which makes it difficult for him to deal with a lot of them when they're surrounding him. But what makes him different from, like, say, Colt or even Crow, especially Crow. People play Crow a lot. I don't know why they're playing Crow so much. The difference for Spike is the fact that he is able to quickly finish off a brawler like within 1 or 2 hits. So it doesn't take a lot of time. You know, you don't have to manually, like, you just take out a brawler and boom, they're gone. You don't have to worry about them for a while. Then you take out the next brawler and boom, they're gone. And then the next brawler and then boom. And you just like kind of have this constant stream of people dying as they walk up to Spike and he takes them out. Next is another brawler that's not the best, but good enough to be on the boss tier list here. These are the brawlers that are good for being the boss. We'll move on to the best anti-bosses later on, but that next brawler is going to be Daryl, also in the B tier. The goal with Daryl is to charge up your super and run away from people rather than engage them in combat very often. His auto supercharge is actually a little bit nerfed when he is the boss, so he doesn't get to use it as frequently, but it doesn't take long for him to actually hit a couple of shots and then use that to roll away. The reason why he can be a solid boss, whereas like Bull or El Primo cannot, is the fact that his attacks actually do reach out a little bit further than theirs, and he's able to consistently charges up his super up so that he can actually run away frequently. Careful not to actually kill people when you're walking toward their spawn, otherwise they will spawn and then trap you. You want to make them chase you for as long as possible, kill them close to their spawn, and then run away while everybody else is chasing you. It gives you as much time as possible to survive. Next, we've got A tier boss brawlers, starting off with Penny. Her splash can be very annoying against the enemy team. It's not quite as annoying as Jesse's, but it is absolutely annoying. If people aren't paying attention, they're bunching up close to each other, which happens quite frequently because there are 5 anti-bosses, and so you're bound to splash or catch some splash every now and then. That makes it very annoying for the anti-bosses to take her out. You can also put your turret in the very far back. Just try to protect it. You can either put it to the one side or the other side or whatever, and that will force people to try to protect it when you do that, but that will force people to try and go up to the turret. It's very annoying because a lot of the times they're going to be dodging back and forth with your shots, and then your turret's going to end up hitting them. And once again, her turret is not quite as good as Jesse's turret, but it is a solid option. Also in the A tier is Tara. Tara is actually a really good boss. She's awful when she's not the boss. Now, there's a lot of reasons why she's good. Her splash means that she's gonna be able to attack multiple targets. The fact that she actually deals a decent amount of damage up close means that she's going to be able to burst people down when they do happen to get up close to her. And her super, oh my gosh, her super is the coolest thing ever because you can wipe multiple players all at the same time with one single super and a couple of attacks. It just brings them all in and then they get obliterated. As the boss, she is actually one of my favorite brawlers to be. She's not quite as good as the S tier brawlers, but she is a very good option. Okay, next up, still in the S tier, Mortis. Now it's pretty obvious why Mortis is S tier. He just runs away. He just runs away. You don't even kill people. Like, you don't kill people, and you'll do better as Mortis, because once again, you don't want to kill them as you're running toward their spawn, because if you run towards their spawn, then they'll actually be able to pinch you, and you don't want that. You just want to leave them alive. You want them to be a clump of people as you run away and use your attack to just dodge as many shots as you possibly can. When you're playing Mortis, you absolutely want to avoid brawlers that can slow you down. So Spike, Shelly, even Frank to an extent. And the thing with Mortis is that while he is great as a boss, he is so bad as an anti-boss. For real, like if you play Mortis, like he'll just annoy everybody. He'll annoy your teammates if you're not the boss. If you are the boss, you will annoy people because it's just annoying to face up against a boss Mortis. I personally feel very bad about the 10 matches that I was playing Mortis before I got to be the boss to get this recording. For real. I'm sorry, people, if you were on my team. I didn't mean for it to be so awful. But yeah, Mortis is just so good as the boss that I couldn't ignore him. I had to put him on the boss tier list. He's just so great. Also, in the S tier, we have Nita. Spawners are the spawn of the devil when it comes to the boss. They're so annoying. Oh my gosh, Nita's bear. You just put out the bear. Now, it did recently get nerfed. It has way less health than it used to. Oh, but it's still super annoying. As the boss, Nita's great. Like, you're just like, sweet, I can attack through people. I can deal damage to multiple people at once. Her star power allows her to heal her bear and her bear to heal her. She has a really fast reload speed, which means that her buffed attacks are going to deal a ton of damage to multiple brawlers. Oh my gosh, she's just a monster. Honestly, she's just so good. But even Nita is not the queen. She is not the champion of Big Hunt. That is reserved for, I guess, Golden S tier. I don't know. I didn't think about doing Golden S tier until now, but if we were doing a Golden S tier brawler for the best boss, it would hands down, no competition, go to Jessie. She is just a nightmare to deal with. Oh my gosh, she's so good, and it's so annoying. Her turret is strong, but the reason why Jessie's so good in Big Hunt is because of the splash attack. When you have 6 enemy players all bunched up, if you hit one of those 6 people, it is almost guaranteed to hit at least 2 other people because there's so much that's going on. It's just impossible for people to pay attention to who's going to dodge, who is not going to dodge. She's got attacks coming from all sorts of different areas. Oh man, it is so annoying. She is the queen boss for boss hunt, Big Hunt, boss hunt. If you are going for the longest time, go for Jessie. Okay guys, now let's talk about the best brawlers for the anti-boss brawlers. These are going to be the brawlers that you're going to want to play most of the time if you actually want to get good token rewards, because playing Mortis is not going to get you anywhere, guys. Plus, everybody's going to hate you. Starting off in the B tier, we have Crow. Now, I actually removed a ton of brawlers from this tier list because I want the brawlers in this video to be the most competitive. So, while Crow is not the best, he is a pretty good option. You don't want more than one Crow on your team, though, because he just has so low DPS and very low HP. He's good at helping the team find the enemy boss, and that's what you use him for. You can use your super if you get close up to use your super and deal like a ton of damage if you're like really up close. But if you do that, you got to be willing to risk getting taken out before, and if not before, very likely after you actually land. The maximum that I've done against an enemy boss is like 2,800, which is not a ton in comparison to some of these other brawlers that can just land a couple of quick attacks for that. So I wouldn't recommend doing this very often, but it's at least useful for you to try out. Next in the B tier, we also have Pam. She has very high consistent DPS up close, but typically she's not going to want to be up close in boss fight because, or Big Hunt. It used to be called boss fight. Man, that is confusing. She doesn't want to be too up close to the enemy boss because she will just typically die from it. She can attack from a distance, but that will decrease her DPS. She's a good option for control, like a wide spread, to actually make the boss move in a specific area that you want to move them to. She can help support. Granted, she doesn't burst heal like Poco does, and she can't heal faster than the enemy boss can actually burst your people down. So she's not actually like the best healer, but she's an option. She's a decent option, at least B tier. Barley's also in the B tier. Barley is one of the least used brawlers. I just rarely see him in here, and he's actually really good. The reason why is because he can attack from a distance. He can use those walls to stay alive. He's a great counter against Penny's and Jessie's turrets. He does not have as much DPS as Dynamite, but he offers great area control. His super can force enemy brawlers into tricky situations. I'm not saying that he's the best, guys. I'm just saying he's at least a decent option. Dynamite is also in the B tier. He can use those walls to stay alive. That's one thing, is that Dynamite actually has more consistent DPS than Barley does. It does take a little bit of practice to, you know, aim his shots, but if you're good at aiming his shots and actually landing them consistently, he's going to deal more consistent damage and stay alive than most other enemy brawlers. His super can also knock back a boss, which can disrupt their flow and can give you a little bit of an advantage, especially paired up with other brawlers that can do the same. Also in the B tier, we have Penny. She's not quite as good as Jessie, but Her turret can be a very annoying thing to the enemy boss if you just place it to one side or the other, maybe even a little bit further back, but just so that it will actually be able to land hits. Then that turret can actually be very annoying because typically the bosses have to move back and forth to try and dodge different brawlers from various attacks and stuff. And so that turret will actually land hits very frequently. And it's not like Jesse's turret where you can just like avoid it. You actually you have to walk up to that turret to take it out, and then that displaces you so the other brawlers are gonna be able to take you out. And it's actually pretty decent. She doesn't deal consistent damage because her attack, she kind of has a relatively slower reload speed, and you do have to aim those shots pretty well. And she's also a really solid counter against Nita and Jessie because of her splash damage, which can either just completely take out the bear or the turret, as well as deal damage to the enemy boss. Okay, we're moving up into the A tier, starting off with Jessie. I actually consider Jessie a lot for A or B tier. Her regular attack is not going to consistently deal a ton of damage, but her turret can be very annoying, and the thing with Jessie, it's kind of a double-edged sword, but Jessie's regular attack is actually a good counter against boss Jessie's, because she'll be able to attack the enemy Jessie turret, and then that will bounce off and deal damage to the enemy Jessie, and that can... Anyway, you guys get the idea. Jessie's kind of weird. She does have very low damage out by herself, and I wish that people didn't play her so much because she's not the best as the anti-boss, but she is a solid option. That's why I'm putting her in the A tier. The best thing for you to do as her is to just try and keep your distance from the enemy boss so that you can stay alive, so that you can consistently deal a lot of damage. Okay guys, up in the A tier we also have Rico. Rico's another brawler that I do not see a whole lot of people playing him as, probably because he's not very good as the boss, but he's actually really great at dealing a ton of damage from a distance. He has low HP, which means that he can get taken out pretty easily, but he has the range to be able to keep the enemy boss away so that that's not as much of an issue. This map is actually really excellent for him because he can actually bounce shots from around. The walls are perfectly angled so that he can bounce shots around and hit the enemy boss basically wherever they are, forcing him into difficult situations, making it so they cannot hide when they would really like to. He's also good on the other Big Hunt map because of its very wide open area, range, and him being able to attack from a distance there as well. He's actually pretty decent at chaining supers. He's not as good as some other brawlers, but if you can do so, there is nothing more satisfying than landing 2 or 3 Rico supers on a boss like over and over again. Like that's legit. Colt's also in the A tier for similar reasons to Rico. He has a ton of DPS from a distance. He can chain supers. His star power gives him a fast move speed, so he can actually dodge some of those Jessie ricochet shots that are going all over the place. He's kind of a high skill cap similar to like Rico is, so he's not super easy to pull off, but if you can pull him off, he's actually a very solid option. His super can also be used to remove the boss's terrain, making it harder for them to run away and easier for your team to actually locate them and take them out, attack from various angles. And I think one of the reasons why people don't play Colt as much is because as a boss, he actually does tend to struggle a little bit. Also in the A tier, we have Nita. Nita has a very wide attack, making it easy to hit that fast moving boss. Her bear is very great at locating the enemy boss and forcing the enemy boss to actually waste a few attacks on that bear. Now, like I said, this does act as a little bit of a double-edged sword against like Jessie, which will happen a lot because Jessie's everywhere, but she has decent HP, which allows her to have a lot of survivability, and her fast reload speed allows her to deal consistent damage very frequently to the enemy boss, making her once again a very solid option. Next in the S tier, we've got Mr. Spiky Boy. Spike is so good as an anti-boss, and the reason why is because his super is so controlling, because it slows him down, making it way easier for enemy brawlers to actually deal a ton of damage on them. Also, his attacks have a very wide spread and have a lot of burst potential, which makes him a very solid option as well. Very easy for him to actually find the enemy boss, actually hit the enemy boss from like around walls and stuff like that. And overall, Spike is just a great option against the boss. As Spike, you do absolutely have to keep your distance so that you do not get taken out by the boss, because Spike is kind of squishy, but if you use your walls right, then he's going to be such a great option. It is time for the best anti-boss out there. If you're trying to get as many tokens as you possibly can, this is by far the best brawler, in my opinion, to play in Big Hunt. We're talking about Shelly, guys. Oh my gosh. Shelly is so good against the boss, and the reason why is because of her ability to chain her supers. All you have to do is charge up your super kind of slowly. You can keep your distance if you need to, whatever it takes. Then once you have your super up, wait till you have max HP, wait till you have max ammo, and then you go in and get right up next to that boss, and you blast them with the super. Then you quickly attack. Then you blast them with another super. Then you quickly attack. Then you blast them with another super. Then you quickly attack. You guys get the idea. All it takes is a super with a regular attack for you to actually let off another super, and if you just tap right where that super button is, you can just chain this over and over and over again, dealing massive amounts to the enemy boss, slowing them down if you're maxed out. It stuns the enemy boss for just a second as well, so they actually can't attack back for that split second. But the crazy thing is that if you have 3 Shellys, you can actually perma-stun an enemy boss by doing this. Okay guys, so right over here we have the best boss tier list completed for you guys, nice and able to see that, so you can take that screenshot. And now we've got the best anti-boss tier list. Now there's a lot of brawlers that are good in one but aren't good in the other, and that's why we're going to talk about the best brawlers who play overall. Like I said, I think that Shelly is the best brawler for you to play consistently, because while she's not the best boss, 5 out of 6 times you're gonna be the anti-boss, which means that if you're going to try and get consistent tokens and try and earn as much as you possibly can, Shelly's gonna be your best bet, especially if a lot of people are playing Shelly as well. You also have a couple other brawlers that are on both tier lists, like you have Spike, and then we also have Penny, Nita, and Jessie, who are all really great options in both modes. Anyways guys, hope you enjoyed this video. It was a ton of fun to make. I say that because all my videos are a ton of fun to make. I enjoy tier lists, guys. They're really cool. There are a ton of brawlers that I did not talk about today because I did not consider them to be competitive for Big Hunt, which technically it's not a competitive game mode, so I don't know why that's really a thing, but you guys get the idea. They're not the best. Like you, Piper. Can't believe I wasted a ticket on Piper just so that I could say I tried them all. For now, this is Kyle's time ticking by, and we will see you in Brawl Stars.